Chapter 6: The Names We Should Remember. Before I close, I want to spend a few minutes with some specific people. Because history can get abstract. Dates and policies and numbers, but every number is a person. One Alexander Camus, born in 1861 in Port Douglas, BC, making him one of the first people of Chinese descent born in Canada. He became an interpreter, a community leader, a voice. He was denied the right to vote for most of his life because of his Chinese heritage. He finally voted for the first time in 1949. He was 88 years old. Masami Mitsui, a Japanese-Canadian veteran of World War I, who fought for Canada in the trenches of Europe and returned home to find that he, a man who had bled for this country, still could not vote. He lived long enough to see the apology in 1988. He died in 1987. He missed it by 1 year. Sikh veterans of the First World War who came back to British Columbia after fighting for the British Empire and were denied the right to vote, the right to own certain properties, the right to practice in certain professions. They organized. They wrote letters. They petitioned. They were patient for decades, while their dignity demanded otherwise. The unnamed women of the head tax era, women who waited in China for years, sometimes decades, while their husbands scrimped and saved to pay the $500 tax. Women who never made it. Women who raised children alone, in poverty, waiting for a reunion that sometimes never came. Their names are not in the history books, but they bore the weight of this policy in ways that are almost incomprehensible. Vivienne Poy, who fought for and won the proclamation of Asian Heritage Month, who used her position not for herself but for community, who understood that recognition is the first step toward dignity. The boat people, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Laotian, who crossed the South China Sea in overcrowded boats, who survived piracy and storms and starvation, who arrived in Canada with nothing and spent the rest of their lives building something. Their children and grandchildren are Canadian surgeons, Canadian teachers, Canadian athletes, Canadian artists. Every one of these stories is a Canadian story, not a story from somewhere else, not a story about Canada from the outside. A story of Canada, of what this country is made of who built it and who endured to stay in it and who arrived and chose to love it despite everything. Conclusion: I want to bring you back to that image from the beginning. The man on the dock, the suitcase, the land that doesn't know his name yet. I've been thinking about that image through this whole video, and I realize he's not a symbol. He's a real person. Or rather, he's thousands of real people: Chinese, South Asian, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, Vietnamese, Cambodian, arriving at different docks in different decades, with different suitcases, but with the same essential thing: hope. That's the through line of all of these stories, isn't it? In the face of exclusion, of humiliation, of laws designed to say you don't belong here, hope, not naive hope, not passive hope, stubborn hope. The kind that plants a garden even when you don't own the land. The kind that sends your children to school even when the school doesn't fully want them there. The kind that builds a community from nothing, in a country that has told you it doesn't want you, because you have decided that you are staying. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most powerful human acts there is. Canada Day is July 1st, Asian Heritage Month is May. They don't overlap. But maybe they should feel connected, because the history of Asian Canadians is the history of Canada. It's not a footnote, it's not a side story. It's not a community chapter that sits separate from the main narrative. The railway these hands built is the country. The farms these hands tended are the country. The hospitals these hands run are the country. The art these hands create is the country. And the suffering, the exclusion, the internment, the humiliation, the unnamed graves. That is the country too. The parts we have to look at, even when looking hurts, especially when looking hurts. There's a Japanese concept. I've used one Japanese word already, so let me offer another. Manu no aware, it translates roughly to the pathos of things, a gentle sadness at the transience of life, a bittersweet awareness that beautiful things pass, that people we should have known are gone, that time moves forward and some debts can never fully be repaid. I feel Manu no aware when I sit with this history, for the man on the dock whose name we don't know, who died building a railway and left no mark in any official record, for the Japanese-Canadian grandmother who voted for the first time at 60 years old and never missed an election again, for the Sikh veteran who came home from a war and was told he still couldn't vote, for every child who was separated from a parent because $500 was an impossible sum, for every family that waited and never got to be reunited. But Manu no aware is not only sadness, it's also a kind of love, the love that comes from truly seeing something, from understanding its fullness, from honoring it even after it's gone. And that, I think, is what Asian Heritage Month is really asking of us. Not just to celebrate, not just to feel guilty, but to see fully, to look at this history, all of it with clear eyes and an open heart. To say, these are Canadian stories, these are our stories, whether your family has been here for generations or for months. Because Canada is not a blood claim or an ethnic identity, it's a shared project. It's an ongoing negotiation about what kind of place we're trying to build together. And you can't build something worth having without knowing what's already been built and what it cost. So this May, and beyond May, honestly, I want to encourage you to do something. Not just watch videos like this one, though I'm glad you did, but go deeper, look for the specific stories. Read the memoirs, visit the museums, ask the elders in your community what they remember and what their parents told them. Look for the names behind the history, because every name is a life, and every life is a story. And every story, told and heard and held, is how we honor the people who came before us, is how we build something worthy of what they endured. Canada is still becoming. We all are. The question is not whether we have a dark past. We do. Every nation does. The question is, what do we build from here? And I think, if we're really listening to the stories of Asian Heritage Month, listening to the mountain builders and the internment survivors and the boat people and the caregivers and the farmers and the veterans, I think they already told us the answer. Build something worth all of this.